this last week as we celebrate groups starting off. My group, our group, kicked off also. And we're in a season where we have 12 adults and 14 kids between the ages of like 1 and like 12 or something like that. Ballpark. It's chaos. And so we have a rhythm in our monthly schedule that doesn't mean that all of us are trying to get in the same room every week. We find spaces where like it's just men or it's just women or it's just adults. But we did. We started this week, and this is our third or fourth trimester together. And one thing that we're looking at entering into in this next season is something called Habits of the Household. And there's someone that has written a book on this and has given ways for people with families and just to be considering like what are the rhythms in your life and how is like your household and your family being shaped by God and with God and those kind of things. And so I started to work through the material a little bit and brought it up to our group. And one of the things that they offer as a resource is called like the family age chart. And I saw this image earlier in the week last week. And it felt like something had just like hit me. I don't know the last time I actually like wrote down or mapped out the reality of the next number of years of my life, of my family's life, of my kids' life. And I think you're only seeing probably half of the image. But then I brought it up to our group and a couple of people were like, oh my gosh. You want us to like write out like the next number of years and actually like face the reality that we really probably don't have as much time as we probably think we do. Like, I don't know about you, but it doesn't cross my mind very often where I'm like, oh man, life is but a mist. It's short. I don't know when I'm going to be gone. And I really want to make the most of things. Usually it's just like I can just walk through life. I'm like, yeah, it's another day, wonderful. Let's just continue on as we've been continuing on. And it wasn't until seeing this image to realize that I don't have much time. As I think about my current situation, having a 4 and a 3-year-old, I don't have much time with them being 4 and 3. 1 and 2 went by pretty quick. What's it going to feel like when they're 10 and they're 20? A lot of you in this room can answer that. Like it goes by very, very quickly. And I bring this up because I wonder, for each of us, are we aware of our ages and our stages in life? When's the last time you considered, where are you at in life right now? And I ask that because it's only in that moment that we can then look ahead and say, where do I want to go from here? Where am I going from here? So if you were to pause right now and you're just to imagine just this little age chart for your own life, what do you get confronted by? What do the next couple years look like? What do the next 10 years look like? Whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're employed, whether you're unemployed, whether you live close to family or far away. And then you consider, what about 10 years from now? As you look back, what do you hope things to look like? What do you hope to do? Who do you hope to become? Because I know you can write 10 years, and unfortunately it brings into reality how quick 10 years is going to come, and how fast it's going to go by. And so as we continue in our series this morning, Relate, where we're considering that for so many years, thousands of years, people related to God in a very vertical way. And then Jesus comes on the scene, and he turns this vertical relationship horizontal. And he says to love me, to love God, to love my Father, to be the people of God, is that we actually love and are unified with one another. That if we actually look at our relationship relationship with God, it's most determined by our relationship with other people. And what I want us to try on this morning, in a hopefully decently interactive way, is what does it look like to relate to the ages? To our ages, to your age. And people have been studying this for a long time. And maybe one of the simplest ways is to break it up into decades. Hey, here's what your 20s could look like, here's what your 30s could look like, your 40s, and so on. And here's the things that you're naturally going to run into, and maybe unnaturally run into, and here's the things that you could take advantage of, and here's the things to be aware of, and here's this natural progression in life. And what I want to propose to us this morning is looking at it through the lens of our life being thirds. That there's a first third, a second third, and the third third. A few of us were at our national conference for we're a part of a larger association of churches called the Vineyard. And our national director and his wife actually worked through a book of the Bible and a story of one character in the relation to these thirds of life. And so I'm going to grab some of that, and I'm going to do it in a very condensed way. They did it for about an hour and 20. I'm going to try and do it in about 25. You're welcome. But I want us just to try on this idea that there's thirds. And hopefully, throughout this, that we can actually see that God actually cares about the age and the stage that we're in, and that the age and stage that you're in right now matters for you, it matters to God, and it actually matters for other people. And it might matter for other people in your life, in your job, in your family, in your friendships. It also matters here. And so there's a little bit of a tension here to think about, what do my other relationships look like? And then what does it actually look like to relate here at Midtown? Because if we want to be a healthy church, we're defined by that, to define that as to be healthy in our relationships. So what's it look like to relate here when considering ages and stages? So what we're going to do is just peek into the life of a character named Joseph from the Old Testament. And I'm not going to read his full story. I'm going to paraphrase some things and grab a little bit. But if you have your Bible, the verses will also be up. You can go to Genesis 37. Now Israel loved Joseph. Israel is his father, also named Jacob, more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." Bold younger brother. His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Again, a mistake. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. And so I want us to think about, through the lens of Joseph, that the first, call it third of life, is one for dreams and visions. Now, we can't put exact numbers on this because everything is relative and everyone's life is different, and you can hit different seasons and you can hit phases at different points in regard to age. But I would just be curious, how many people here are younger than 25? One. Okay. Ashton, I'm just talking to you today. 26, 27, 28. Okay, 29, 30. Okay, not bad. I guarantee you there's many more young people, and I'm like, I can just see them in my head, and like, they're not here. So y'all are going to get a lot today. But I would urge us to think about, like, if for the rest of us that are not 25 to 30 or young, like if you think back to being 16, to being 18, to being 20, to being 23, to being 25. I remember someone telling me that at those ages, the only thing that could rival my arrogance was my ignorance. Like, you really have no idea anything about life, right? Like, you think you do. You know all of it. You have the answers. Your parents have it wrong. Teachers and authority figures, like everyone else has like gotten it wrong and they're messing up your life because you have dreams and visions. You have ideas. You have elaborate ideas. You have things that you want to pursue in life. You have things that you want to go after. You have things that you're trying to figure out. The road ahead is long. And you have so much in front of you. And now, depending on who you are and how big your dreams are, and if you're like Joseph and said them out loud or not, you may have had some people trying to suppress those and to push those down, to say, oh yeah, it's a cute little thing, and you'll figure out once you get my age that, whatever it is. But I'd be curious to the Ashton in the room and maybe some of the others. For those of you that are not maybe in this phase, we'll get to the next phase here just in a second. What would you say to those that are still in that dreaming and vision stage? Knowing what you know now, what would be important for them to hear? And go ahead and share a couple things out loud.
Don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged. Don't let life get in the way.
Save more.
Save more? Yeah. Save more. That's good. Was it the same one, Emily?
No, it's not a straight path.
Not a straight path.
Don't be careful, try lots of things.
Don't be careful. Try lots of things.
Find good mentors.
Find good mentors. Maybe one more?
Things get better.
Things get better. Yeah. Now, depending on who you are and in that age, depending on how much life experience you had, depending on how many hard things, some people grow into the second phase by the age of 12 because of the hardship in their life, right? I mean, there's certain things that propel you into next stages faster than others. But speaking at large, this is a season to dream and to have visions, to go after things, to take risks. I look back at my life in this phase and man, did I take risks, but they were all the wrong risks. Honestly, like just a lot of bad, I was risking. I had dreams and visions. Man, I took my lunch money from my parents one month and went to the casino. And that was a big dream, big vision. It went bad real quick. Luckily, when you're young and in college, you can eat beans and rice for quite a while, and you can wait till next month's allotment. But there's things that you can do now that you can't do 5 to 10 years from now, that you can't do 20 years from now. There's things that you can try on. Ashton, again, just talking to you. There's things that you can do that most people in this room can't right now because of life stage. And there's things that as we think about, man, go for things, do this stuff, I would say that I had dreams, I had visions. Many of us could probably be in the same boat. I took risks. It was mostly selfish and for self-gain. And I look back, it's like, man, I wish I took different risks. I wish I went and just did things for other people, and I got overseas more, and I got into different cultures, and I asked more questions, and I gave myself away, and I just thought about, now, that's my story and where I'm at, but you can do things right now that others can't. And so what does it look like to do that? What does it look like to try that on? And as you're thinking about the other people in your life, how are you encouraging them and allowing them to dream and to have visions? So now we'll move to the next one, because I can also talk to you too, now that there'll be more than one person. That's going to be great. So we keep going here. And in Genesis 37, here comes that dreamer. You can hear the sarcasm from the family very quickly. They said to each other, "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of those cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." And I know we read this is like a Bible story, and we've been reading the Bible to our girls through this little kid's storybook, and Joseph's got like his little multicolored coat on, and I think I still subbed the word kill for like they had to go away or something like that. But like, honestly, think about this. Like your own family, the ones that are there to take care of you and protect you, to raise you, to allow you to dream and to have visions. Everything is just taken away in an instant. And I want you to think about your own life. How many dreams and visions did you have to where you got into that next season, maybe beyond the dream and vision, and real life started to happen? Disappointment started to come. Everything that you worked so hard for actually ended up not being worth it as much as you thought it was. Surprises start to come that are unwanted. People start to come that are unwanted. Everything that you've been promised that's going to work out and be great starts to fall apart a little bit. I don't know, like when Caitlin and I got married, like everything's supposed to just work out and fix itself. But like we get into marriage and like I think I'm pretty great going in. I'm like, man, what a catch for her. Like, she has no idea how lucky she is. And then within like the first hour, like it just crumbled. Like I'm the worst communicator. Like I'm bad. I am selfish. Like there's like the things that like I thought were just like pet peeves. I am like actually like an angry person over someone else's behaviors. I mean, you just keep going down the list. And all of a sudden I'm like in this thing that was supposed to be great and work out and just kind of naturally happen because we're in love. And it's like, this is hard. And then we're like, man, the dreams of having kids and doing a family. And then it's like 6 years of battling infertility and all the things happening along the way where, man, we want that and others are getting it and what's happening and is it us? And you're playing through all this stuff. It took me a while to realize, someone said mentors. It took me a while to realize that I needed help. Now, I don't know about you, but for any of us that, I'll get to what this phase is called here in a second, any of us that have been in a position of like needing help, it's not often that like the most amazing person just drops in your lap and just says like, hey, I'll mentor you, come along, let me show you the ways. Like no one's just like walking around the streets trying to find people. And if they are, then you probably don't want them mentoring you. Let's be very clear. But I remember I got to a point, I mean, this is probably 5-6 years ago. I literally started calling and sending emails to people across the nation that I was kind of watching their life from afar. And I would just be like, hey, I'm this random dude you never met. Do you want to like spend time with me on the phone and on Zoom and over email? Do you want to mentor me? I literally just started reaching out to people. I didn't know what to do. And then someone, a lot of people talked to me actually, that I was very thankful for. Actually, our national director for Vineyard, he was like, yeah, man, let's chat more. And I told him what I was up to, and he's like, wait, hold on, so you're just like reaching out to like just random people because you saw them at like this or that? I'm like, yeah, I kind of like know them, and they're connected to these people. And he's like, but how do you know it's like real? I'm like, I don't know, I just trust people. And he was like, why don't you like fly out and actually go like test it? I'm like, well, are you offering me to fly out and come see you? He's like, well, I guess so. And so like I just got on a plane and I said I need to go follow something else. And but it took this certain amount of work to go and to do. I think about when I was part of a church leadership team and I was starting to preach more, and I actually came across Brian Ross and said, hey, you think a lot about preaching and I need to do this, and can you help me? And he says, send me a few videos. I'll see if you're worth working with or not. Let me see if you got it. And it was in that moment that I realized that I need other things and other people, and not to just live for myself, because I'm learning that everything that I imagined and dreamed and just would magically happen was not happening. And it was going to start taking a certain amount of work, and life was starting to be filled with disappointments. And it was even through the sermon conversation that, Brian, I don't know, for the first 2 years of Midtown, you and I talked on the phone like every Tuesday. The amount of time you've given me. Didn't expect this part. From Brian to Jay to many of you that are leaders and friends, and I don't know where I would be without it. And this idea of understanding the age and the stage that we're in, to see who else we need to relate to, matters so much. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank many of you enough. Can't thank people like Jay enough. Because it matters to spend time with people in different ages and stages that are trying to figure out life and navigate things. I had one more thing I was going to say there, but now the tears distracted me. It matters. Because this is the stage where life does start to fall apart. And what's so interesting is this would be the stage of building and overcoming. Like, this is the season where you're building your life and your family and what the next 30, 50 years are going to look like. And at the same time, it's exhausting and it's hard and things are falling apart and things are broken and you're being faced with like the tragedies of life. Why are we doing both of these things at the same time? I don't know. We should probably have kids at like 8. Like, why we have so much energy then and like vibrancy. Like, I don't understand it, but we're building and we're overcoming at the same time. The next thing that happens to Joseph, not only does he get, his brothers want to kill him and they settle for selling him off to slavery. So kind of them. And he goes and he works for Pharaoh. Or for Potiphar, and he gets into these places where he kind of has no business being. And then again, he gets in, he's in leadership, and he's the right hand, and he has all this authority, and then Potiphar's wife just accuses him of rape. And now he's thrown in prison when he actually had a very high integrity. So again, he's in this place, these things happening, and then misunderstanding and accusations. Life starts to fall apart. And then even when he's in prison, these things start to happen, and he's talking about these dreams and these visions. He's like, I'll help you guys do this, and they're going to remember him and get him out of prison. 2 years go by, completely unforgotten, just completely forgotten. This phase of building and overcoming, things are going to keep coming at you. Disappointments are going to keep coming while you're building, while you're actually now pressing in. So I'd be curious, and I'll get to just maybe the good news about us builders and overcomers. Maybe from the rest of the room, maybe those that might be ahead of this, and maybe the one person that's younger than this. What do we say to the builders and the overcomers?
What's the age range?
Let's shoot like 25 to 45/50, ballpark. Don't forget to slow down. You're in it. Oh, see, you're saying you're in it. That's okay. We can talk to ourselves a little bit, a little self-talk. But what else? Enjoy the moment.
Lean into God.
Lean into God.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Fail forward. Maybe one more? Don't get too busy. Time goes on. Joseph's life continues. He's accused. He's misunderstood. He's imprisoned. His family sells him off. All while he's just pressing in and continuing on. He's doing the things that God faithfully wants to carry him through. And then there becomes this moment at the end. There's a famine in the land, and Joseph's whole family has to come to him, not knowing it. And then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now, do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now, there's been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Now, I know we wouldn't choose it this way, but the overcoming and the building happening in the same time is producing much in and through you. And this isn't, everything happens for a reason, or, oh man, that tragedy is going to be used for good, or the things that we try to say when things are uncomfortable and hard. But in the way that God does things and in his kingdom, you, I, builders and overcomers, are being shaped into something through all of it, into someone. And to be somebody who becomes more and more over time, both calloused yet gentle, both firm and committed, also compassionate and kind. That as this life is going on, the things that are happening to you end up being things that can happen through you. But it is easy to just become disenfranchised with life and to pull away and get frustrated with God and with others, and just to move away on your own and away from other people. But for the builders and the overcomers, this is the season to press in and to trust that everything that you're going through can and probably will be used. And we get to choose how that gets used most often. And so for us, may we be a people that's open to the things that are hard and that are hurtful and that you want to run from. And trusting in the midst that there is a God who is doing work in and around you that you cannot see right now. But then over time, how are you using what's shaping you towards other people, as we see here in Joseph? So we already said a few things of what we would say to the builders and the overcomers. And I will just cap it with this, that life is tragic and yet it's so beautiful at the same time. And there's just zero way around that. There's zero way around that. But there is a God who is working in the midst of all of it, that is drawing us nearer to depend on him more and more and more, to break the things that we tend to depend on, like ourselves and our pleasures and the things that we want for our own gain. Okay, lastly, all you old folks, I might only be talking to one or two on this other side also. We'll see. But here we get to the third phase of life, which is one that we could define as loosening the grip. If you've ever watched people that get closer into their 50s, into their 60s, into their 70s, you can very quickly see who's holding on and who's letting go. Can't you? You know it. You know who's becoming more free, and you know who's not. And while it's not in the book of Genesis or in the specific story of Joseph, it's still a part of his story. And here we turn to Hebrews 11:21. By faith, Jacob, Joseph's father, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshiped as he leaned on the top of his staff. What an image. As he's dying, as he's old, as he's crippled, as he's leaning on a staff, he's worshiping and he's blessing. He's worshiping and he's blessing. He's worshiping and he's blessing. Now, Jacob's life did not go as planned. I mean, how many years did he live without his favorite son, thinking that he was dead? Yet to come find out that his other son sold his youngest son, or almost youngest son, into slavery. Worshiping and he's blessing. For those of you that are in the season, in the stage of life, where you can choose to either tighten the grip or loosen the grip. What others need from you, what I need from you, what most in this room need for you is for you to worship and for you to bless. For you to worship and for you to bless. For you to worship and for you to bless. So for us in the room that look to those that are in the season of loosening their grip, what would we say to them? What would we ask of them? Thank you. Life is not over. Yeah, changes still happen. What else? Live transparently. We need mentors. One more. God is faithful. Yeah, do you see how this third of life is like relating to one another in the ways that we need it most? That there's no moment in which the season or the phase or the stage that you're in is not connected to the stage ahead of you or behind you. And that whichever way you look at it, there's work that you're invited into in the season of life that you find yourself. And each of them take a certain level of self-responsibility. Your life is not someone else's job, but your life is someone else's blessing. And if we can see that there's a giving and a receiving on both ends, how much healthier as a church can we be? How much healthier of a community, of a city, of neighborhoods, of schools can we be? Because just the simple fact that many of you, maybe I'm speaking mostly to us on the other edge of the builders and overcomers and the loosening of the grip, man, there's some people in their 18s, 25s, 30s that sometimes need to hear of your suffering and your tragedies because they're coming into the first season of tragedy. And it feels like the world is ending. And it feels like there's not much to live for. And you, who have been through much, have much to offer. And just the sharing of your life to encourage and to press in. So, here's my thought. It's a little clunky. Don't try and correct the grammar either. The stages of your own story matter in the pages of God's story to relate to the ages of other stories. Like the exact moment you're in right now matters so much. It matters much to you, of course, because the more you can be aware of it, the more you can actually do something with it. It matters so much to God. He has so many plans and things for you in the exact season you find yourself in, whether you feel like it's great or terrible. He really does. And that when we can see those things, your story matters much to others. It matters much. Now, what I'm not asking for you to do is just start running around and try and find a mentor and get a mentor and be a mentor and just go crazy. But what I'm asking you to do is to be open and aware of the season that you're in right now. And just to pay attention and to notice what's God doing in and through you in this season. Who's around you? Who's he putting around you? Who's he inviting to be around you? And then what's it look like to show up here and do this together? What's it look like for Midtown to be a place where the generations, the thirds of life relate with one another? I didn't check, but on average, there's 45 to 50 kids checked in downstairs right now. Kids that have hopes and dreams and visions. And are we a people that can be open to spending time with them to help them see those hopes and dreams and visions realized? That they can actually risk more for God and his kingdom than for their own gain. That they can start to see a larger story playing out than just their own. That they can quicker realize that they're actually blessed in their own life so that they can be a blessing to others. Like if you haven't thought about even just the simplicity of jumping in kids ministry once every 6 weeks, I encourage you to. Because as we get older, we also need the younger. We need their dreams and their visions. We need to be reminded that there's still much to live for, that God is doing so much through your own story. And so what's that look like for you? If we go back to this family age chart, I'm going to actually invite the worship team to start coming up. Where are you at? Again, not that this tells your full story, it's just a sample. Don't worry about trying to read the tiny words. But where are you at? Like if you actually thought about where are you at in a decade right now? Where are you at in 5 years? Where are you at with dating, with singleness, with marriage, with relationships, with kids? Where are you at right now? How are you being invited to relate to the current season you find yourself in? How are you relating to others? Who do you want to become 5, 10 years from now? This season matters much. So now I'm going to ask you for a little bit of courage and vulnerability, maybe. Yeah, let's go this way. If you feel like you're in the season of loosening the grip, can you stand up? We're all going to be standing here in a second, but you're going to get us going first. And you can you let us know where you're at. We're not judging hair colors or anything like that. Those that are in the season of loosening their grip. The rest of us, can we just pause for a moment? You don't have to say it out loud. But can you just pray? Just pray for them as I pray. Yeah, Father, just thank you for those standing now. Not just that they find themselves here at Midtown on this Sunday or regularly a part of just the life here, but I'm just so thankful for their story, their life, what they've been through, what they've seen. And I specifically ask this morning that they be reminded and encouraged that both the young and the old dream dreams and have visions. That in your plan of making all things new, that every single person can play a part. And that each of these people, that they've been given much in their life. Much that is good, much that has been hard, much that they've been formed and shaped into. And so I just pray just an encouragement in their life right now, that they can more clearly see all that they've been given. And that you would just continue just to place others in their life that they can simply give away to. And where they're at with you this morning, may they be reminded of what it looks like to worship and to bless. To worship and to bless. And may their fingers continue to just uncurl on all that is life. To open their hands to create more space for you, more space for others. So God, I thank you for those that are loosening their grip. And next, you builders and overcomers, can you stand with them? Now you can't fully see who is standing before, but you can very quickly see that most people stood up right there. Which means that right now in the life of Midtown, most people are building and overcoming. Which means that they are tired, and trying to figure things out and trying to make sense of life, and at the same time are building so much for what the next generations will see and be able to step into. And I was preparing for this morning and just praying, and I'm so thankful for your willingness to build and to overcome for the sake of others, those that can come and step into and be a part of and just even experience or sense what Midtown is up to. That much of it comes from your ability to build and to overcome your personal life, the life here of Midtown, the life in your neighborhood, in your workplace, in your families, and your kids. And may you just have just a renewed sense of confidence in the things that you're pressing into right now. And if it's not the things that you're supposed to be building, may God speak to you and realign some of it. May some of you walk away with more clarity this morning on what it looks like to build, what you're building for, why you're building, who you're building for. And may you also be met with a sense of peace that is above understanding, that as the trials and the hardships and the challenges continue to come, and that it's so quickly to maybe look at life in dimly lit glasses because we know the rose-colored glasses are off. May you be filled with a joy and a hope this morning that is beyond your own ability. And may you be looking for those loosening their grip to pour into your life. And may you start to think about what it looks like to loosen your grip. And who are you sharing your life with? Who are you encouraging to dream and have visions? So, Father, I just thank you for this group, for those who are building and overcoming simultaneously. Yeah, that we continue just to be open to what you may have us build. What are the areas that you're calling us to just lay down the shovel, to lay down the hammer, to lay down the areas we've been building, and where are you asking us to move to? What are you asking us to pick up in this next season as we consider the age and the stage that we're in? May you bring just alignment and attunement with your mission and your kingdom, all that is good and right and beautiful, that we become people that are so open to your presence and your power. Yeah. And lastly, Ashton and or any others, why don't you stand? May you take risks. May you do things right now that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel natural, not because it's good, bad, or harmful, because it's for others. It feels like giving yourself away. It feels like your life is not your own. And may you remind us what it looks like to take risks, because as someone once said, faith is spelled R-I-S-K. And so may we all be people, especially thinking about those that are younger, what it looks like to continue taking risks in the rest of our life. And may we all look to those, the Ashtons of the world and those downstairs, and may we encourage them to dream and to vision and to take risks, to keep pressing in, to be open to all that God has. Yeah. I think this is what the kingdom is intended for. It's for people in different ages and stages to press into exactly where they're at, but then press in and to be aware of what God is doing in you, through you, and around you. And so what I want to do is simply just go into a time of communion. And may you go into communion. The tables are on both sides of the room. The cracker represents the body of Jesus that was broken for you and I, and the blood that was shed so that we could receive forgiveness, not because of how good we are, but because of how good he is. And so during this song, may we be open to the ways in which God is inviting us into reimagining our current season, reimagining how we're living our current age and our current stage, and being open to what he's inviting us to do, who he's inviting us to participate with. And so may we ask for just an infilling of God's Spirit in our lives this morning through communion. We'll sing while we take communion. And then for those that would like extended prayer time for things that came up, the prayer team will be forward, and that team can actually start kind of walking forward now. So why don't we go ahead and take communion and sing together. I'll be back in a few minutes to close us out.